I'm Wale Olait. On today's Friday, 27th February 2026, you're welcome to this edition of the program. Yesterday, I shared a video titled A Political Opportunist Calling Someone an Opportunist. So that video was in response to a recent interview granted by Senator Yabo Obasanjo, a political aspirant for the post of governor of Ogun State in 2027 election. So I got a message, in my inbox around that video. That person was saying that, it is within Senator Obasanjo's right to be the governor, that I shouldn't be critical of her. I think there's a problem with comprehension these days. I remember when I was in primary or secondary school, there used to be parts of English that we call comprehension, whereby you give a passage, maybe about 4 paragraphs, and you read and you answer questions and you summarize your understanding of that, of the paragraphs or the story. I think these days. It appears there's a problem with comprehension. In that same video, that was the first thing I said. I said that it is within our right to contest and aspire to be the governor of Ogun State. The two reasons why I made the video, as highlighted in that video, number one is around the hypocrisy of calling someone a political opportunist. And I pointed out in my video that arrows to power are, from a commissioner in Ogun State to a senator is nothing but, political opportunism linked to her father. I also more specifically spoke about her condescending kind of language in telling the people of Ogun West around the choice of candidates. Like, she was very critical of Yayi, a prominent candidate or aspirant from Ogun West. Senator Yabo Obasanjo was critical of him, and it's purely political strategy. You have to attack someone that you consider or perceive as a major opponent in getting the ticket. And also the condescending language around telling us when it is our time after she has done that 2 terms, then she would assist us in achieving that. That's my summary, the way she put it. So, and I responded to that in my video. But, I hope that before people accuse others or before people come and I'm open to criticism, I'm open to people asking questions, but I just hope that people can just apply a bit of comprehension. If you are responding to something that someone has written, make sure you've read that thing very clearly and then ask questions around that. Or if you're responding to a video, personally, I don't make comments on videos or anything until I've read it, or until I've seen the video or videos, as the case may be. So if you want to be critical of what I said in the video, I will politely tell you, to really take your time to watch the video, and then you can come back and ask questions. Or if you want to even have a go at me, you're free to have a go at me. Or if you want to be critical, but at least just do yourself a favor. Be thorough. Watch the video before you come back to really accuse someone, in any shape or form. But I put that in the past. I'm making this video just to, as I said in my video, just in that video, I appealed to my people in Ogun West to do the right thing, knowing fully well that people talk about rotational arrangement or whatever. There's nothing really written anywhere within our constitution around rotational arrangement. I think it's just either as governor in the state or presidency. I think what we have is just a kind of agreement between regions just for national unity. And I think across the state, they adopt the same approach of that fairness, equity, of by rotating governors across different uh, uh, zones or senatorial districts in the state. So that was my point. My point, and many people from Ogun West will say the same thing. Ogun Central, Ogun East, they've done it many times. We haven't done it. We, in the spirit of fairness and equity, we should even have our own opportunity to be, number one at Okemoson, um, the Okemoson Governor's Lodge. So, but the most important point in today's video, is around people to understand power and the nature of power at state level or at a national level, and for people to know generally that power is not just given to anyone, because when I see videos or comments, I see a lot of emotional comments. And even on this Ogun West thing, I'm deliberately cautioning myself not to, get myself into that space where you begin to sound like entitled. I don't like any sense of entitlement. I don't want to really sound like, like sound that is entitled. No one is actually entitled to political office. Politics by its nature is not for the faint-hearted. Politics by nature can be very cruel. Uh, Politics by nation you can see the worst of humans through politics, or backstabbing, or people. So it is a game of power. And if you really want power, you have to go and get it and use it for good. So, to our people in Ogun West, we have to understand that it's not going to be easy. No one is going to hand over or just give you that whatever to become the next governor of. As much as we want to play the emotional game around it, there is nothing stopping others from Ogun Central, Ogun East from going for it. We can make a case for them. We can make a passionate case or appeal in a respectful way, for people to know that, okay, let's allow our brothers and sisters in Ogun West to try it and see how far they can go in spirit of fairness. But there's nothing really there that they should or hand over power to us in Ogun West. And the same approach when you see national politics around many things, appointments, and you understand, like even as recent as 2 days ago, I made a pause where I spoke around the kind of issues, online debates around Tunji Disu, the new Inspector General of Police, and Frank Iba. And as I said, I was very direct in that video, the kind of argy-bargy between the Igbos online and Yorubas online. We should get it, we should not get it. Some people just claim that once again, President Bola Tinubu ignored an Igbo man and give it to another Yoruba man. My honest opinion is that if you look from, depending on where you're looking at it, there's an argument from both sides, and both sides have, reasonable, arguments on that topic. But my essential point is around power and, the nature of power and how it works. And, even in the advanced democracies, I live in one here in Australia. I have a lot of followers in America, in UK, and somewhere else. Nobody gives you power just on emotional. You have to go and get it. Even within parliamentary system governments, it could be very cruel within a political party. As we know, in parliamentary system, the leader of the political party becomes automatically the prime minister, if they're able to do well in an election. So for you to sustain that position as the leader of your party, because everybody knows whoever is the leader of the party, whether you are in government, you are the prime minister, if you are in opposition, you are the future prime minister. And for you to maintain that position as the either the opposition leader or the prime minister, you have to watch your back anytime, because within your own party, there's someone behind you. Within your own cabinet, there's someone that really wants your job. who wants to be the prime minister. And they know that if you just have a few polls that are not favorable, someone within your rank, someone within your cabinet will move a spill motion to change the government, to change the party leader. That person is not saying, I want to become the prime minister. That person is saying, I want to become the leader of my party. Automatically, the leader of the party becomes the prime minister. So I found parliamentary system very, very interesting in that aspect, and I've learned a lot of things. There are a few videos or documentaries around that within the major political parties there. Around a time they went through these major internal crises of leadership crisis. So I know for a fact, I follow politics, I understand the nature of power, um, and I know that you don't really just expect anyone to just give you power. Even when we're as far back as student union leaders, nobody gave you power just for nothing. You have to really go after. You have to go after it. You have to go and campaign to people. You have to really show people that you really want it, and you have to make your case and convince people before they give you that power. It's just as simple as that. So I get that clearly. And my major topic is that people, regions that are feeling a bit, not happy, or they're feeling a bit let down. My appeal is that people they have to understand power. You can understand that recent times there have been some few young, Igbo, billionaires joining APC, and obviously like Obi Kubana, High Priest, and some other young guys. And obviously, a lot of criticism around what they've done. But if people really pay attention, they really want to understand how power works. And I'm not talking about morals here. I'm not talking about morals. If you're talking about morals, maybe you have to be far away from politics or power. It is as simple as that. Even within the church or within the mosque where people talk about God, when you look closer inside, you will see the nature of power and power torso within that setup. Who become the pastor, who become the bishop, who becomes this, who become the chief imam. Whenever you have people, there will always be power torso. There'll be politics there, whether people accept it or not. So strategically, you have to see that if you really want to get something from the center, the federal government, if you really want something, you have to be an active stakeholder in that process. You have to be actively involved in the process leading to the emergence of that leader. I'm not talking about morals here. I'm not talking about whether it's right or wrong, but that is how politics works. Even in the advanced economies that we use to make as example, that is the way it works. They just don't, give power to anyone to become president of United States or to become, the prime minister of Australia or prime minister of United Kingdom. There are a lot of things, behind the scenes. There are a lot of, deals and that they have to go through to become a premier of a state. It's not just something that just happens. I think sometimes in Africa, in Nigeria, when we look at the Western societies, we have a different ideas of how some of things work in terms of their political arrangements. No one is going to go and smash or a polling unit where people are voting. No one is going to go there and disrupt people from voting. We don't do that here. They don't do that in any advanced countries. But behind the scenes, there are still, who gets what and what has it got to offer? Who is behind that person? Who is supporting? Which media organization is in support of which political party? Which media organization is very favorable to one political party? Which media organization is against one political party? And you can see that reflecting their coverage of politics and their stories and everything. And what do they get back in return? They get something as well. Maybe getting government adverts or getting I don't think it's not even. I don't think they didn't do it for free. Nothing, goes for free. There's always something in exchange. So that's the nature of politics, and I think sometimes people can get so bitter, and you can kind of get a bit, in a way, feel about it, but Politics is not about morals, even though you want people that are morally upright to be there. It's a very intriguing situation. You want people that are morally upright to be there, but there are a lot of things surrounding politics that even the most morally upright person, when they get it, they understand that, wow, this is more complex than they are taught. Um, so if you really want power, if you really want to really have a say at the federal level, or even at your state, you have to play it very smart. I think that's just the nature of it. And in my next video on this topic, I will go more into those issues around, I guess, ideology and political strategy. It has always been like that. You can remember even the Awolowo and Akintola's, political crisis that people have spoken about many, many times is around, different views between two leaders around the ideology and strategy. And that's just the way it is. So maybe my thinking is that, the Obi Kubanas of this world, that other, young billionaires from, Southeast, they can see how power works. They can see how it works. They can see that you have to align with the center. They can see you have to align with the center to get what you want. And don't underestimate them. Don't think they are fools. Don't think they are just doing this because Tinubu has promised. Even in Nigeria, nobody makes millions and sustain it through whatever means. They can make their money through. I'm not yet to preach or now they made their money or whatever. But making money is one thing. Even sustaining that wealth, whether you give it to them or not, maintaining that wealth over 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. Some of them, they've been around, like Obi Kubana. I mean, they've been around, as millionaires or billionaires in era for a very long time. It takes strategy to maintain wealth. It takes strategy not to get bankrupt so quickly, especially when they're spending money, spending millions every day. People are inviting them to one big party or function or the other. It takes a lot of time to really maintain wealth. So I think, in a way, so that I won't distract, from the main topic, I will do a second part of this video where I will talk more around that, ideology and political strategy and the nature of power. The nature of power is that if you really need power, you have to go for it. The nature of power, political power, is that you can't remain in opposition. You can't remain outside the big boys and big girls, and you want to control what happens there. It doesn't happen that way. You can't be, fiercely oppositional to power at the center. Even, let's say, even at your even let's break it down to your local government. Let's assume there are 10 towns in the local government, and you have a local government chairman. And local government chairman knows that there are community leaders in 8 of the towns that are very loyal, that are very committed, that they are with him. And there are 2 other leaders within that same local government area of 10 towns or communities. What do you think local government chairman is going to uh, favor in terms of amenities, or doing something for the community? That's the nature of politics. And I think the more we understand that, the more we know what it is. It's not about anyone preaching morals from morning to tomorrow, or Facebook or social media. It doesn't work. You have to be where they make those decisions. And that has been my recent, what I've realized recently. And you've got to be intentional around it. And I've shared that with people, even people that we used to be in opposition before, and talk about. I just feel like these days when I sit in forum like that, when they talk, I just feel like I'm back in student union building where we lived in our utopian world. In some cases, detached from the reality of life or the reality of how the system works. We were in that space in our 20s. But I struggle now when I stay with men in their 50s and you're talking about politics and you listen to them. They still talking like you were back in your student union building where you had these utopian ideas of, you know, and I've, politely told many of them that things doesn't work that way. That's why people that you think you have all the ideas, that's why you are not getting to that areas where they make decisions, because you don't get it that you really have to be intentional, you have to go for it, and you cannot negotiate from a position of weakness. You cannot, get someone to make you a commissioner in your state, even though you have all these ideas on how to do things, when you don't have 10 people in your community that you can put together. They're not going to give you anything. They will give it to someone that doesn't even have anything to offer, but that person can bring 5,000 people to their rallies, to their events, and whatever. And that person can guarantee that out of the 5,000 people, maybe they can get 2,000 of them out on the election day to vote for a party. That is how they win anyway. They won't give you anything if all you just talk and all this, rhetoric and everything, but you don't have any number. So that's just the point, that we look at it. Sometimes we feel things are not done properly. It's not morally right. Why, But that's the nature of politics, is that anywhere it is give and take. On the parliamentary system, and I can make comparison because I've lived in Nigeria for years and I've lived outside Nigeria for more than 20 years, and I can see here there's what they call marginal seats during elections. So every party, they have a marginal seat. Marginal seats are seats that the margin between the two political parties, the margins are very, very small, that the vote could swing either way. So what they do in marginal seats, governments, mostly government that want to retain a marginal seat, or government that want to take a marginal seat from the opposition, they do deliberately put in programs there. They will look in those communities. Do they have problem with rail network, or do they have problems with having a sporting complex where the kids can go and do their sports and whatever? And they strategically locate something there. That's what they do, the marginal politics. You call it whatever you want to call it, but what is it all about? Is to help a party either to maintain that seat, to get votes from the marginal seats, um, or to retain that seat, because they've done all the polls and they know that the margins are very, very small. And by nature of that margin, then it's gonna the votes from that political area could go either way. And oftentimes the political party, in power, I've lived in a suburb in western suburb of, Melbourne for a long time, and many areas in the western suburb of, you know, of Melbourne, they call them save Labour seats, where Labour Party has won over and over. In many areas, they've won like 40 years election in and out. And what happened? They ignored those areas in terms of development and infrastructure, because they know that they've got that anyway, that the voters, they are not going anywhere. But they concentrate in areas, you can see how crazy it is. They concentrate in areas where they are not voting for them, or where they have very low margin. They concentrate in those areas with development programs because they want to win or retain the seats there, and ignore areas that they already have, secured votes. So that is just the way it is. If you really want representation at the central, you can't be in opposition and vote opposition party, and then you expect that once a government has emerged one way or the other, you expect that, I'm not talking about morals here, I'm just talking the practicality of governments and politics and how it works. And you feel that the government will ignore areas that voted for them, and the people that voted to them and supported them. You think that they will ignore those areas and be coming to your area for all development or anything like that. And it just, you know, politics is a game, and it's a very emotional game, and you have people playing the game. So if you really, really want something for your people, You got to be intentional, and you have to look at it critically and just play the game. That's why I think Obi Kubana and the rest, they are not stupid. They know what they really want. And I won't be surprised if they be able to get something for their people through their process, through that realization. I'll make a second part of this video where I will, talk more around, ideology and political strategy, the intentionality of really being in government and getting something from the government. I'll stop here on this edition of Footprints. I remain your host, Wale Olaita. Bye for now.